Good afternoon, my name is Hola Tamanova, and I want to thank everybody who joins us on Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. It's been 10 years of the war, and today is day 513 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And I traditionally want to thank the representatives of all the mass media who tell the world the truth about our fight for freedom. Our brief schedule for today is as follows. At 1300 joining us will be Natalia Kyiv. We will be talking about the situation in Mykolaiv and Mykolaiv region, and at 1400 we will talk about the draft law on the English language. What changes can we expect? Joining us will be Mikita Potorayev, chair of the Humanitarian and Information Policy Committee of the Parliament of Ukraine, and joining us right now is Natalia Humeniuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center for Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Ms. Natalia. Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Miss Natalia, we know that the south of our country recently is being incessantly attacked by the Russians, and this night was no exclusion. So what is the situation? What was going on this night? Well, the south remains a priority for the enemy, and even when it seems that it's calm there, the situation is still tense due to the silence and the sea where the enemy bases their ships, their vessels, is the zone of our responsibility where we track their behavior, which is of critical importance to us. So this night, after the 3 days of the incessant attacks, consistent attacks on the south of Ukraine, inflicted yet another strike, which was a little bit slighter but still very destructive. They launched caliber missiles from the equator of the Black Sea. The vessel used the specifics of the landscape and the way those missiles cruise on top of the surface of the sea to direct them close to the border of Ukraine to complicate the operation of the air defense forces. Two missiles struck the storage facilities of an agricultural companies where the grain was stored, and when the rescuers started to put out the fire, there was another signal of air raid alert and another wave which included one caliber missile using the same route, the same tactics, hit yet the same storage facility, hit the same coordinates, having damaged the agricultural vehicles and the vehicles of the rescuers. Fortunately, the rescuers took shelter and were not injured. However, there is information about the two people injured in the nearby village where the shockwave destroyed a number of houses around that agricultural storage facility. About 100 tons of peas and 20 tons of barley were burned in the storages. Well, Miss Natalia, we've heard the statements by our partners that Russians have mined the entrance and the exit from our seaports. Is it so? And what's going on in the Black Sea Basin in general? What is the situation? Well, we have to understand the geography. How come the Russians have mined the entrance to the ports? They had to physically approach the ports to do that. So it's the information mostly for speculations. But objectively saying, since March 2022, when Russians occupied the territory of the Black Sea, the line which connects the Tarhankut and Snake Island. This area was proclaimed by the Russians as the zone of anti-terroristic operation. They said all the vessels that are based in the sea should enter the ports of Ukraine and stay there, and they were counting the ports which are in fact are not ports, like the Iron Port is just the name of the city. They just used it all together in the list of other ports, which tells us about some superficial preparation on their part to that operation. But the the cruising of the vessels was going on under the grain deal. It was agreed with the coordination center in Istanbul. Only all those vessels listed by that coordination center could cruise in the sea according to the list with no other navigation. The fact that they tell us about the threat in the Black Sea, this is their attempt to proclaim their domination in the Black Sea for all of the world, and they continue terrorizing the state of Ukraine, even economically. For the time being, they have proclaimed that all the vessels that will be going to the ports of Ukraine would be deemed as the military targets by them, which was responded by our Ministry of Defense. That all the vessels going to Russian ports will be considered as military targets by Ukraine as well. We comply with the laws of war, and we have full rights to damage anything that supports our enemy. Miss Natalia, what's going on with the vessels that were ending up in our ports or nearby after this announcement by the occupiers? Are they still staying in the ports, or is there any movement observed? There is no movement. We comply with the international maritime law, and if within the framework of the United Nations procedures it's announced, we Miss Natalia, we're not hearing you. Miss Natalia, we're not hearing you, unfortunately. Can you please switch on the microphone? You have your microphone switched off. Miss Natalia, can you please switch the microphone on, because we were not hearing you? Well, I have everything working. Yeah, we're hearing you now. Can you please repeat? We haven't heard your last comment about our inability to provide for any navigation of the ships. Yes, navigation in the territorial waters of Ukraine is not performed now because the sea is mined, it's dangerous, and according to the situation proclaimed at the international level in the Black Sea,
Зараз ми спробуємо.
we're trying to resume the connection with the speaker. I'm reminding you, joining us online is Natalia Humeniuk, the head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine.
Сподіваюсь, що
I'm hoping that we are about to reestablish connection.
наша технічна команда
Our technical team is working on reestablishing the connection with the speaker. We realized that Ms. Natalia is based where the connection is not always good, so we're hoping that we will make it reestablishing the communication.
Пані Наталі, чи чуєте ви нас?
Так,
Так.
можу повернутися. Це була
Так.
екстрена ситуація, пов'язана з ракетною небезпекою.
Ага, зрозуміло. Добре, тоді продовжуємо. Дякую.
Ми можемо продовжувати.
We can continue our broadcast. We have reestablished the connection with Natalia Humeniuk, the head of the United Coordinating Press Center of the Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine. We're happy to have reestablished the connection. Miss Natalia, we can continue. Yes, the enemy continues their attacks on Odessa. 7 missiles were launched against the infrastructure facility in Bilhorod-Dnestrovsky district of Odessa region. We don't have any information about the casualties so far, but that's yet another demonstration that the enemy is not about to stop. They will continue their terroristic attacks and all this deadness of the region. I urge you to be attentive and vigilant and proceed to the shelters in case of air raid alerts. So this is the most recent information. You're talking the events that are unfolding right now. Yes, there was just another missile attack on Odessa, and this is the result that we're aware of for the time being. Thank you very much for this information. Miss Natalia, I would like to stop on the discussion of the so-called explosion in Crimea. Can you please give us a couple of comments on that? We see that all the time and something is going on there, something is detonating, and in the south of our country we see quite an intense work of our armed forces that work on the spots of the concentration of the vehicles and personnel of the occupiers in our temporarily occupied territories. If you can share any details about that. Could you please repeat the question? The question was regarding the explosions in Crimea and other temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, where we observe a periodic explosions, something's going on there, and we understand that our security and defense forces continue working on the spots of mass concentration of the enemy, their vehicles. So how efficient is that work, if you can give us any comments on that? Obviously, well, we were warning that there will be a season of explosions in Crimea, and before our security and defense forces arrive there, everything should start flourishing. The cotton is natural, and we clear the capacities of the enemy that were accumulated illegally in our territories. Thank you, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions on the floor, please? We have question on the floor, please.
Good morning, madam. This is Lorenzo Cremonesi from the Italian daily Corriere della Sera. Thank you for being with us. Sir, madam, I have some different questions. The first one is, it was not clear before, or in any case we didn't understood. Are you saying that do you have proof that the Russians are mining the Black Sea?
Будь ласка, питання.
Sorry? Are you saying that the Russians are mining the Black Sea in the last days, or not? I didn't get the answer from the previous question. She cannot get us.
Була така заява.
There was a statement by our partners that the Russians start mining the entrance to the Ukrainian ports in the Black Sea. But if we talk about the ports that are located under their temporary occupation, that's quite clear. They can afford doing that because in fact they transformed Ukraine into the most densely mined country of the world. They really can do that, but talking about the ports which are under Ukrainian control, under Ukrainian jurisdiction, this is not what's happening there. Thank you. Do we have more questions?
So as far as I understood, you say that till now you don't see the Russian mining the Black Sea. Definitely not in front of your port for the time being. That's what we got. Second question, Madam. Can you tell us how many ship, boats, cargo, foreigner cargo, are in the Ukrainian port at the moment, stranded because of the cut by Russia of the grain deal?
We don't currently have this information. We only provide for the security component of this matter. With this question, you better address the administration of the seaports of Ukraine or the Ministry of Agriculture. Thank you.
Third question. We understood that the level of defense, the capacity of defense of Odessa is less than Kyiv, for instance. I mean, you shot down less drone and less missiles than in Kyiv. Can you confirm? I mean, you are now ready to face this wave of attacks. And secondly, these attacks are mainly from boats, from the Black Sea ships, or from airplanes. Thank you.
The attacks on the southern region are executed using almost all of the enemy's potential. I mean, in terms of missile, they use both strategic and tactical aviation, the air-to-surface missile. Sometimes this is the missiles launched from the sea, both from the surface and from underwater. Also, they shot Onyx-type missiles from their shore rocket systems, and saying that Odessa is not ready to defend itself is not quite correct, because the results of the operation of the Southern Air Defense Forces are quite convincing and intense. And I want to remind you, 1 month ago the enemy resorted to the tactics forwarding their drones to make the way around the air defense forces of the southern region, mostly along the temporarily occupied territory, and then going to the central and eastern parts of Ukraine. Well, talking about the capabilities of the air defense is not quite relevant, but for potential protection of Ukraine, we need more air defense systems, because the enemy that we're fighting is prepared way better than us to this war. They were accumulating their potential way longer, and even under the pressure of sanctions, they continue manufacturing the missiles that they launch against us. So we just need a broader range of the air defense capabilities. I'm talking about different air defense systems. Ms. Natalia, if I may ask you the last question, do you think that such a terror against the south of our country will continue, and it's a strategic goal of our enemy? I hope you've heard my most recent question. No, unfortunately, I haven't. I'm about to repeat then. So I'm asking about the continuation of this terror of the south of our country. Do you think that this terror may continue? I mean, specifically the terror against the south of our country, that it's a new tactics of our enemy. One, two. Unfortunately, upon the results of the attack. Everybody is attacking me with the phone calls. Can you please repeat the question once again? Yeah, we understand it's a hot phase unfolding now. So can we say that the terror against the south of our country may continue because it may be a new tactics used by our enemy? Well, absolutely nothing new about that. The enemy just continues to terrorize us, and we're ready that to intensification of their terror. They may take some pause, they may try looking for new tactics, for example, to attack us using other capabilities from other directions. So in fact, our command, the headquarters and the commanders of units, they will look for countermeasures, and to the maximum extent we will try to make the life of the civilians safe, even notwithstanding any attacks of the enemy. So talking about the situation with the missile carriers in the Black Sea Basin, for the time being what it is now, the group of ships deployed in the sea is 13 vessels. One is on duty. The enemy has performed the rotation. The missile carrier from which the missiles were launched this night was brought back to the port, and another one is now on duty in the sea carrying 8 caliber missiles. We estimate the missile hazard as high. We observe the activity of tactical aviation and the rocket artillery systems which the enemy uses against Odessa, launching, for example, Onyx missiles. So this is what has just happened now in Belgorod-Dnestrovsky district of Odessa region. Thank you very much for joining our broadcast. Thank you very much for the information. Dear colleagues, joining us was Natalia, Humeniuk, head of the United Coordinated Press Center of the Security and Defense Forces of the South of Ukraine. And our next briefing is at 13 o'clock. We will be talking about situation in Mykolaiv region. Joining us online will be Vitaly Kim, the military governor of Mykolaiv region. So stay tuned. Let's work together for our victory and glory to Ukraine.